Hey there, kindergarten friends. Today I want to share with you a book that I love to read in the springtime when we're teaching shapes. And I know that you've been working really hard this week on different shapes through our agenda in our Google Classroom. And I wanted to share with you this book. It's called Perfect Square. And this book is about some pretty special squares. And you can see the shape of the book is actually a square. It has 4 sides that are all the same and 4 vertices. So kind of cool that the book called Perfect Square is in the shape of a square. So I hope you enjoy this book. And when we're finished, I'm going to show you a fun art project that I like to do for this book. Okay? All right, so let's enjoy Perfect Square. Perfect Square by Michael Hall. It was a perfect square. It had 4 matching corners and 4 equal sides. And remember, another name for a corner is a vertex. More than one vertex, we have vertices. And it was perfectly happy. There it is, perfectly happy being a square. But on Monday, the square was cut into pieces and poked full of holes. It wasn't perfectly square anymore. Now, it's still the same square, but you can see that it's been cut and poked with maybe a hole punch. So all the pieces are still there, but it's not a perfect square anymore. So it made itself into a fountain that babbled and giggled and clapped. And look at what happened to all those pieces that were cut up from that square. They were put back together into a fountain. And all those little punches that were punched out of there, that's the water splashing out of the fountain. That's kind of cool. On Tuesday, the square was torn into scraps. Look at that. So that was a square, but now it's just a bunch of scraps. So it made itself into a garden. Look at those beautiful orange and yellow flowers. Do you notice a pattern in this book? On Monday, on Tuesday, guess what this page says? On Wednesday, the square was shredded into strips. Do those strips remind you of anything? They kind of remind me of something. What do you think? What do you think they're going to turn back into? Oh, so it made itself into a park. I thought those strips kind of look like grass. Can you see the kite? Very cool. On Thursday, the square was shattered. Look at that. Almost like a mirror or a window that broke. It was shattered. So it made itself into a bridge. Look at that bridge. Once was a square and now it's a bridge. On Friday, the square was snipped into ribbons. Look at those. That square was cut with a special pair of wavy scissors. Wavy scissors. I wonder, and the paper's blue. So it made itself into a river. The fish jumping out of the waves. Good idea, square. On Saturday, the square was crumpled and ripped and wrinkled. Look at that. Just kind of torn into 2 pieces, but it's crumpled and wrinkled. What could that be? So it made itself into a mountain. Oh, so they took those 2 triangular pieces and turned them around and lined up their edges, and there's the mountain. It's a great idea. On Sunday, the square waited to see what was next. It waited and waited. Nothing happened. Just a square. Its 4 equal sides were confining. Its 4 matching corners were rigid and cramped. Oh, it doesn't look so happy anymore. It started out the story perfectly happy to be a square, but now it can realize all of the exciting things that it can turn into. So it doesn't want to be just a square when it can be a river and a bridge and a mountain. So it made itself into a window. Oh, cool. And guess what the window looked out on? It looked out on a mountain that gave birth to a river that was crossed by a bridge that led to a park that was home to a garden that had at its center a fountain. So that window looks out at all of those things that we saw in the book that babbled and giggled and clapped. And that's the square that we started out with that turned itself into a fountain. So that, my friends, is Perfect Square by Michael Hall. Now, the project that I like to do with this is I like to give boys and girls their own square of paper, and they get to choose what color they like. So if you don't have colored paper at home, this is what you can do. You can just take a crayon or a colored pencil or a marker and color yourself a square. And I'm going to show you what I did when I got my own square. So this is the square I started out with. It looks kind of bluish in this picture, but it was actually a green square of paper. So I took this square and I thought, what could I turn this square into? And I want you to be thinking about the same thing. We had some ideas from the book, but the things you can turn a square into are limitless. So use your imagination. What could you turn that square into? And that's what I did. I thought, and I got a little inspiration because my paper was green. So I was thinking, what's green that I could make with a square piece of paper? So I took that piece of paper and I tore it into a bunch of pieces. Can you see what I did to that? That was this same square. Can you believe that? When I tore it up, that's what it turned into. And then I looked at those pieces and I said, oh, I got it. So I took them and I arranged them on my plain piece of paper and I stuck them together and I made myself a frog. Can you see my frog? How cute is he? That started from just a square piece of paper and he turned into a frog. And I didn't want to just leave the frog by itself on the page because you know in kindergarten we're all about adding details and labels and color and making our pictures really exciting. So what did I add? I added a sunshine. Of course, he's wearing his shades. I added a sky. I added some flies. My frog is in a pond. There's a fish. There's grass around the pond. And I gave my picture labels. So all the things that I drew, I labeled them. I labeled sun, sky, frog, fly, fish, grass, pond. And I didn't want to stop there. I wanted to write a couple of sentences about my picture. So I wrote, I turned my square into a frog. My frog is in a pond. So that's what I want you to do, boys and girls. I want you to think about the book that we just read together, Perfect Square. And I want you to get yourself a square piece of paper. It could be a little square, it could be a bigger square, but remember, a square has to have 4 even sides and 4 vertices. So that's where you start. You start with a square. What could you turn it into? You could make an animal or a food, or maybe something that you like to play with, or a person. You can make anything. So that's your challenge. Get yourself a square. You can cut, you can rip, You can crumple, you can do anything you want to that square, but I want you to turn it into something else. And give yourself a little art project. And then add some details, add some labels, add a sentence or two. You know how we roll in kindergarten, right? We're not just going to leave this one picture there in the middle and call it good. No way. We're almost in first grade. Let's see some first grade work, right? And I would love if your moms and dads would take some pictures of what you do with your square and send them to me, send them to your teachers. We would love to see them, okay? Challenge, what can you do with a square? All right, I hope you enjoyed the story, and it's time to get busy on your project. Have fun.